Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Friday, July 25th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks. It's going to be 5 players in total, 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Friday's slate overall. And it's going to be a large main slate, so definitely feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. And then in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report that have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And I will be listing as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely make sure that you are checking up down in that comment section, especially as we do get closer to lock, so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information as possible. But without further ado, we'll get right into the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position with Nick Pivetta of the San Diego Padres. He is at $10,300. Currently averaging just over 36 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the St. Louis Cardinals. He has good but limited history versus them in the past. He had one start versus them last year in 2024 where he put up 49 fantasy points, so some pretty decent upside there. And if we take a look at what he's done so far in the season, he has 10 wins, 2.81 ERA, so he's been doing really well so far this season. Once again, averaging just over 36 fantasy points per game at $10,300. There are quite a few pitchers out there, so definitely feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. A lot of great and attractive matchups across the board, so definitely do like getting to a plethora of different pitchers if you're playing multiple lineups. Then we're going to move down to the hitters. We're going to start off with Salvador Perez at $3,200, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Cleveland Guardians, and Gavin Williams is the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 4 for 9 versus Gavin Williams in his career. And if we take a look at what Salvador Perez has done as of late, he's on a 6-game hitting streak, 4 multi-hit games during that time span, 5 home runs, and 5 double-digit performances. So he's been on a really good hot streak as of late. If you look at what he's done so far in the season, .255 batting average, 18 home runs, 62 RBIs, averaging over 9 fantasy points per game at $3,200. Then we're going to move down to third base with Josh Jung, who was recently recalled from the minors and is starting to hit the ball pretty well once again. He looks like he's found his swing. He's at $2,700, averaging over 8 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Atlanta Braves, and Joey Wentz is the expected starting pitcher for that Braves team. Josh Jung is 4 for 6 with 1 home run versus Wentz in his career. He's on a modest 3-game hitting streak since returning to the majors. 1 multi-hit game during that time span, 1 home run, and 1 double-digit performance. So the floor might be a little bit capped, but the upside is definitely there once again. He's at a .244 batting average, 9 home runs, 36 RBIs, once again averaging about 8 fantasy points per game at $2,700. Then we're going to move down to George Springer at $3,600, averaging just under 11.5 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Detroit Tigers. It is Kader Montero as the expected starting pitcher for that Detroit Tigers team. He is 3 for 3 with 2 home runs versus Montero in his career. George Springer has at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 7 games. He has 4 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, 4 double-digit performances, and 5 games at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So the floor is very good for George Springer, as we've seen quite a bit as of late. And he still has pretty good upside if he's able to hit a home run. He's at a .282 batting average, 17 home runs, 55 RBIs. Once again, averaging just under 11.5 fantasy points per game at $3,600. Then last but not least, we are going to get down to Adolis Garcia. He's at $3,000, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game. He is also going against the Atlanta Braves. Joey Wentz still the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 3 for 7 with 1 home run versus Joey Wentz in his career. He has at least 1 hit in 12 out of his last 15 games. Only 2 multi-hit games during that time span, so that's kind of like maybe the one downside to him as of late. But 4 home runs, 6 double-digit performances, and 9 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So still does have a decent floor with some significant upside at the same point in time. So definitely do like getting Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, some of this Rangers stack just in general. And if we look at what Adolis Garcia has done so far on the season, .228 batting average, 14 home runs, 57 RBIs, once again averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game at $3,000. And before we get out of the core picks, there's one other guy that I just do want to mention. He's not in my core, and that's going to be Aaron Judge. He's definitely in play at $4,900. Going against the Philadelphia Phillies, Taijuan Walker, he's 4 for 13 in his career. All 4 of those hits are home runs, so obviously do like the upside of Aaron Judge. Just kind of with the price point and paying up for Nick Pivetta, it didn't really line up too well in this core picks, but definitely do like getting Aaron Judge and some of the Yankees stack just in general. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,200 remaining, just over $3,000 remaining per player. So it looks like a little bit more of a balanced build type of day the rest of the way from here. definitely feel free to mix and match. Stacks will obviously play a pretty big role just in general. There are a decent amount of value options out there at the same time as well, so it's going to be a very interesting slate, one that we can get very creative with overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Friday's slate overall. So in terms of my top GPP stacks for Friday, we're going to start off with the Baltimore Orioles. They are going against Kyle Freeland of the Colorado Rockies. Not a long list history there in the past, but definitely do like into some of their hitters. Jordan Westburg, Gunnar Henderson, Tyler O'Neill are three guys that have hit him pretty well in the past, although, it's still a pretty small sample size. And then we move over to the New York Yankees. Going against Taijuan Walker, you can look at Aaron Judge, you can look at Giancarlo Stanton, Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm. All four of those guys have really good history versus Taijuan Walker in the past, and then obviously some of the other players in their lineup do have some pretty good upside at the same time as well. And then we move over to Texas Rangers. They have a smaller sample size versus Joey Wentz, but it is a very, very good sample size at that. Whether it's Josh Jung and Adolis Garcia, who we have in the core picks, Corey Seager's there as well. You could still probably get to Marcus Semien. And then if Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith both ultimately end up in the starting lineup, both of them have a home run versus Joey Wentz in their career. So some pretty decent upside there and some value options at the same time as well. And then last but not least, we get down to the Toronto Blue Jays going against Kader Montero. Limited history versus him in the past, but it is pretty good history, obviously highlighted by George Springer, who is in our core picks for today. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my core picks, as well as top GPP teams to stack for Friday, July 25th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report. They'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher, and then I will be listing as many of these starting lineups I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening down in that comment section. So definitely make sure that you are checking up, especially as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. I know this week's been a little bit all over the board. Do definitely apologize for that once again. And then I do have my CFL DFS video coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. So definitely feel free to check that out if that's something you're into as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user on either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, is 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty good opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Friday, July 25th.